Well, Chef D, thank you for coming on Piatto Live.
It's an absolute pleasure. I've been waiting for this.
Well, I know you're really busy, and like I said to you as soon as you walked in, I've been so excited to do this. I was at an event last night and couldn't stop talking about it, and I've gone through so many times in my head what I'm going to say to you when you first come on, and none of this is going to happen. So, my apologies.
It's all good. It's all good. I love the concept of just sitting and talking about food. You know, and there's a lot of times now that I don't get a lot of time just to sit down and you know, kind of do this type setting. You know, we've created a really great catering company and all that. And sometimes you get so busy organizing, you don't get time just to, you know.
And to reflect too, because you've done a lot in your career so far. And
Yeah,
you started
fun.
at Humber College, which I went to as well, so another reason I'm even more into this. But tell me how you started.
I always loved cooking, and you know, I'm going to be 56 this year. And back in the 70s, we had Graham Kerr and we had Julia Child, which was great because we'll get to Graham Kerr in a minute. But I loved cooking. Right, so I'd go with some buddies to their friends, their cottages and something like that, and they're, you know, fixing the boat or, you know, fishing or something like that. I just wanted to be in the kitchen, you know, learning what they were doing, you know, and I loved it, and, you know, you'd always get those weird looks and that. So I've always wanted to cook, and, you know, I made my first loaf of bread when I was 10 years old. My mom had 2 cookbooks, The Joy of Cooking or Food That Really Schmecks, and so I took the joy of cooking out and started cooking. And then I remember through my high school years, early on, that I would have people over and, you know, I'm making this. And for instance, it would be a stir fry or something like that and trying, you know, ginger with it. Because we grew up in a family that didn't stray very much from the mains of, you know, your meatloafs.
Potatoes.
Yeah, exactly, right? And that, so, you know, adding some flavor to it and some heat to it was totally different, and some different vegetables to it. And again, you know, God bless my mother, but you know, asparagus was like, it was almost mush by the time we got it. And so then changing that to making the vegetables crunchy and doing all that. So, you know, and there's a whole bunch of mistakes along the way. You know, I remember making my first batch of fried rice that it was this black ball of starch. It was absolutely disgusting.
We've all made mistakes.
But that's what's so great about cooking is you can make the mistake, you learn from it, and then you move on from it. You go, I'm not going to do it that way. That rice has to be drier the next time you get to do, you know, that. So, and I formed my own catering company when I was in grade 12, Touch of Class Catering. It's funny because we found through our moves and all that, we found a menu, and the secretaries at my high school actually designed the menu and did that for me.
Really?
And then it's funny how it all goes around, right? Because I was doing dinners in people's home before, you know, what I'm doing now, you know?
And what you're doing now, I mean, just obviously having researched you a little bit, you are kind of a pioneer in what we're trying to do right now, and share it with people and bring your knowledge and share your story and share your cooking with people. Like, when did you start your Chef D TV show and your YouTube and all that stuff?
So Trish and I have been together for 12 years, and when we first started hanging out, we never dated. You know, we were too old to date. We started hanging out, and Trish was working, and she had her own segment on Soul TV, like a feel-good, you know, somebody in the community did something really cool, and she wanted to interview that person, right? So her producer kept bugging her and going, like, do you know a chef? And she goes, well, I didn't want to mix business with pleasure. And so she just kind of put it off, and then she saw me up on stage, and she said, I have some charisma and that. And so she thought, hey, would you want to, she actually approached me and said, hey, do you want to be in front of the camera? And I went, sure, this is really cool.
That's
right?
how it started.
So we did 8 episodes with Soul TV, and they were about 15 to 20-minute episodes. And it was a real learning experience because I'm looking at the camera right now and just looking past you at the camera. But when I'm looking with you and talking to you, it's a whole different feel. When you first start talking to the camera, it's like all you see is that black dot in the middle, right? And you don't feel the people behind the camera, and I wasn't embracing that. It wasn't until we went to the NRA show in Chicago, the National Restaurant Association show, and there's like 2,400 or 4,000 vendors, I forget at the time. But I was working for Aquastar at the time, so Trish would go around and find these really cool vendors, right? And then she goes, well, you got to go interview them. So you kind of learned on the fly to think of quick questions and that type of thing. So we did, like I said, for 8 episodes, the weekend after Chicago, learning that you can make mistakes in front of the camera, just like cooking, you know, and that you could become friends with it, you know, really opened up the door. And so Soul TV wanted to take it into a whole different direction than where I wanted to really take it. And so we changed. So that's when we formed Chef D. So we threw in my RSPs and hired Melissa Schenk and MS2 Productions, and I think we did, I'm going to say, between 20 and 30 episodes of YouTube before it was popular.
Right.
So we would send it out every, I think it was every, and I know Trisha's here, but I think it was every 3 weeks or something like that. Every 2 weeks, we would send out a little newsletter, hey, where's Chef D? And then here we go with this episode, right? So we were very before it got big.
You're ahead of the times.
And the great thing about it was that it was all stuff that we wanted to do. And, you know, we went to Seattle and saw them make cheese. We got to make cheese, and we went to a really cool bakery there. And then the first episode was at the Owen Sound Market, and I've always been partial to markets. And so got to meet Tommy and got to share into the passion of a small market in that. And that's kind of where it all went. And then used up all our savings and kind of went, okay, I think, you know, we're done now. And then I was doing some work with Rogers, like just work with Rogers. I was on Rogers Daytime as a regular guest, and they kept bugging me, the host and producer, go, you should really write into Rogers and see if we can get a show going. So we wrote into Rogers, and they flatly said no.
I was not expecting that.
No. So we were in between houses. So we're coming back from our cottage, and don't always do this, but stopped at I do go to McDonald's. I'm not saying I don't go to McDonald's. We stopped at McDonald's because we wanted to use the Wi-Fi. We fire up the Wi-Fi, and there's a note from Rogers saying, hey, we'd like to do a show with you.
After they said no.
Something happened, somebody canceled, whatever. And so we did 8 episodes the first time in the studio. It was so hard, you know, because I was used to, again, when we did our show, it was maybe 15 minutes or 8-minute episodes, right? So then now you're thinking you have to do 3 7-minute segments. And then I brought people on that have never been on the camera before. So it's really difficult, and I don't know how, you know, that unless people experience, right? Yeah. And they all of a sudden, like, they freeze, right?
I'm sure I will at some point during this, so, you know.
They just kind of stand there, or they give you the 1-second answer that you're hoping that you get a little bit more out of. So over the years, I've learned to have guests on that have a little bit of TV experience and that can share their passion, because that's what it's about. And then through that, we've been able to interview some amazing farmers in the region, some amazing people in the region. Two of my favorite seasons were Chef 911, where we had like 21 people email in to, hey, we want Chef D to come to our house, right? So we did one for a family that their son had MS? I'm trying to think, what was it?
He had a disability that he needed to be treated in the United States.
Right. So they had just raised a whole bunch of money. So, you know, and then it was just an opportunity to share their story, right? And then we went to another house that, you know, he loves football. And then we found out that, you know, through how we kind of intertwined in 6 degrees of separation and all that. So it was just a really great experience, and having some fun while doing it.
And I feel like you've had a lot of fun over the years because I guess, catered for a lot of big names. Diana Krall, Snoop, you know, they go from one side to the other. So what's the best part of that for you, and how did you get into that?
Okay, so this is a great story. I'm wherever I think I was working at Entertainment Elements at the time, and I get this phone call from the CEO from Center in the Square, and he goes, hey, do you want to cater for B.B. King? Hell yes.
Is that a real question?
Yeah. And so just We had never done it, so we weren't sure. And I love food. We're going to talk about wine shortly. Love wine. And the other part is loving music. I love live music, always have, love the blues. So I've seen BB a bunch of times. So we got to go and I think we just did dinner with him that night. So he wanted prime rib, got to take prime rib on BB's bus type thing. And the coolest part to this whole story, not only was being a cook for him, but after the show, BB would sign autographs, and this is like near the end of his life. And so they would wheel him on a wheelchair onto the side of the stage. He'd walk on, do his 45-minute show, and then sign everybody's autograph. And then he comes back. And Steve Strongman, who's a blues player and amazing musician, was standing at the side, and we're standing here. And so BB comes over here, and he just starts talking to us like you and I are talking, right? And then it's kind of going, like it's kind of ending a little bit. And is there any other questions? And then Steve Strongman pipes up and goes, well, Mel Brown. And then BB like his eyes just light up. He'll go, Mel Brown, the best guitarist I ever know. He was 10 times better than I am. That's why I have this guitarist. So it was like this private conversation that you're kind of eavesdropping and you're in front of, right? So that's how it started. And we did.
That's so cool.
Pat Benatar, Kenny Rogers, and then we did the late, great Stuart McLean. And Stuart, that was truly being part of a family. He, master storyteller in CBC, very, very amazing, gracious man. And so his whole team, when they came down for dinner, they ate together. Like from the roadies to the merchandise people, all the sound people, all the bands,
really cool.
Everybody ate, and I love your big tables in the restaurant, they all sat at a big table and they ate. And it's the only time I can ever tell you that I ever followed one of my menus was the first time we catered for Stuart. And Jess, his handler, tour manager, came down and checked it all off because she had the email and then just went through everything that we had because we found out that on the road, bands do not get great food. They sometimes, the promoter or whoever will not serve the best of the best. So they always check it off. So we did it and then started, we actually went from 1 hour radius to, at the end, I think it was like a 5.5 hour radius that we would do work with them.
And how much interaction did you have with them?
Lots.
Yeah.
Lots. I got to introduce Stuart at one of the shows, but just even talking, and he loved food, right?
Yeah.
So, I got some great olive oil the one time, so I'd bring some olive oil down to him. The coolest story I think that I can remember from him is that we were, I think, in Brampton, and he comes off the bus and he goes, I really don't always look at license plates, but when I saw the Chef D license plate, I knew my day was going to be really great.
That's fantastic.
Right? So that's morphed into, we do all the 90% of the events that come through Centre in the Square. We do Sanderson Centre. We've catered for Bonnie Raitt down in Toronto. As you mentioned, Diana Krall. And then we've done Park Jam, and this is our third year of doing Rock the Park this summer in London, where we go and take the whole crew for 5 days, and we feed all the acts that come through, and that. So it's kind of neat.
Wow. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's been fun.
I can't imagine cooking for big crowds for one, because obviously when I don't cook here, I call it playing kitchen when they need me in the kitchen. But I love to cook, as my brother was mentioning to you. But I mean, for the masses and for big names like that, it's pretty awesome.
It's no different than a guest that would come to my studio, or let's say I was working here, they would sit there. They get the same experience with Chef D, whether you're here or whether it be Snoop Dogg or whoever it is. And I think that's what's really kind of set us apart, because we haven't
changed.
Yes, no, we haven't changed. And yes, of course, you have some starstruck at times. When I had a crush on Diana Krall. And the first time I got to actually talk to her, it's like, and that
kind of like me when you walked in.
So it's just that's the cool part of it, and they're humans. And the other part to it is kind of when they come down to the green room now, and Johnny Reed is one of them. They're all happy, right? And everybody's telling them in the band, going, "Wait till you get to Kitchener. Wait till you get to Kitchener." And that's something really cool that we can offer, and it's not hard to do, right? So that's what I like.
And you talked about them sitting down all together and the family table that we have. And family and that style of eating for you has been something that you've loved for a while, right?
I do, and because, I think our society has gotten so busy over time that, we don't always get to slow down. And, we're in the industry, like, you don't slow down. So when you can have a dining table and have people, we love having friends over and have more the merrier, and Trish always would say, so am I setting for 2 or am I setting for 12, And it's just great because, let's say over on this side, you have a bunch of more grandparents. So new grandparents over here talking about the grandparents, some guys over here talking about business and others just laughing. And it's just all around the table. And it slows us down for 3 hours or however your dinner party is. And it doesn't have to be that long, but it slows you down and you get to share some experiences, and it's cool. I like it.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool when I read that, because when we first started Piatto in Newfoundland, then we opened Halifax, I asked everyone, it was my first time running the show, and I said, what do you guys want to do for your Christmas party? And they said, we want to have a family dinner, because they truly felt like a family. And I said, so you don't want to go out, you don't want to party, you don't want, they said, no, we want to sit down and we want to have a family dinner in our restaurant all together. And I thought that was one of the coolest things ever for our staff to say that. And it hasn't changed. And so it's really nice to see that other people still value that. When John and I were growing up, we had Sunday dinner every Sunday. And when you're younger, you hated it. And as I got older, like now not living there, I'm like, I miss Sunday dinner. I miss that.
I got to interview Andrew Scheer this past spring. And that's one thing that he brought up, is that his mother would always have the Sunday dinner, right? And it's 3 hours and they hated it. But as you get older, you miss it, right? And he goes, the Scheer dinner. And, he'd talk about everything. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah. Completely changing topics, going back to you a little bit and how you do things differently, and there's certain things that people always remember about you. And one of the things that my brother mentioned this morning when you walked in was the shorts. Tell me about that.
I worked in a bunch of different restaurants, and it's always hot, and I've been hot since, sorry, that's what came out wrong. Internal temperature hot forever, because I asked my mom about this. So the shorts came about when we formed Chef D. Before, I always had to wear long pants. When I worked for Weber's up north, they have a burger place on the highway, but they had 2 sit-down restaurants, one in Aurelia, one in Barrie. And we could wear shorts. And I just loved it in the kitchen because it's always hot, right? And so then I just wore shorts, and then I like to refer to it, then I, did 10 years of having to wear big boy pants. And so when we formed Chef D, I went, no, we're back to shorts again. And, I've created my own worst enemy at times, like, with weather like this. But I literally, in a hot kitchen, 90% of the time, we go literally out 4 minutes to the elements to get in a warm car to go to our event, get out and do our event. And when we're in London, when we're in downstairs at the green room, it's really warm in there. So that's how it all came about. So that's why, there's no real magic to why I wear shorts.
But you wear them all the time.
All the time.
I've heard that we won't see you in full length pants.
No, probably not. Last year we were on CHCH Morning Live, and it was when we got up that morning, it was minus 28. And so we're driving from our place, 40 minutes away to Hamilton. So I thought, this would not be a good day to be stuck outside, if something went wrong with the car. So I put long pants on, and Brian, the weather man in CH goes, I've known Chef D for 8 years. I've never seen long pants. It's cold when. And the whole show flipped to Chef D wearing long pants. So, it's been kind of
a trademark now.
Yeah, it is. It truly is. And, I've gone into some head offices working with some other companies, and this one person commented to the receptionist, hey, that guy's got shorts on. I thought you didn't allow shorts. And she goes, he's Chef D.
He can do what he wants. I love it.
So, that type of thing. The spiky hair and it's kind of built the brand that way, right? That people are very recognizable of that. So
for sure. And speaking of doing what you want, you get to invite whoever you want on your show, and make whatever you want. How does that thought process go? How do you decide what you want to do?
I sit down with an empty my iPad, and I sit down and kind of think about might of what we've done last year, and last year was kind of going back to school and taking some old recipes or even new recipes and just, learning the 4 basic sauces, teaching how to make a pie crust, that type of thing. And that's how that started. But it all just starts kind of thinking about where I want to go with it. And this year I want to do with friends. So, we've had some people on already, and you're going to come on.
I'm going to hold you to that.
And you will be on. And again, it's just having some fun with it, right? And again, having people on that know TV, and it just makes it easy for me. Like we just did it with Stacy from Sweet Things in Brantford, and it goes like that, and it's the way we go. And this year, we've done. I think we made angel food cake and a couple other things on it, and then the last one was old school, so we made like tuna melts and sloppy joes, and kind of taking it back and going. And the other parts of it, I've been blessed to be on this earth for the time that I have been, so I can look back and see things and see different and like different, what goes around comes around. And I thought, now it's time to bring back, a really cool tuna melt or a very cool tuna casserole or, that type of thing.
Yeah.
I know that kind of went in a whole different way.
That's okay. You never know where it's going to go, right? So let's talk about this wine that you brought. So,
like I mentioned to you earlier, I've loved wine. Back in high school days, beer was okay, but I really did like wine. So I'd have wine and cheese parties instead of, keg parties type thing, right? So this is, a 9-year-old. It's a Massey, and I'm gonna mess it up, Kefrolen. It's one of the ones that I first started drinking years and years ago, just because it always was consistent. It had some age on it, that type of thing. So I've had this in the cellar for a while, so I'm hoping that it's still good, and we're gonna try it and kind of go from there. But the other thing about having a great meal is having a great bottle of wine with it. Because again, too, with the bottle of wine is that you slow down, and you remember, I remember a really cool bottle of 1978 Ernest and Julio that I had in Winnipeg in the late 80s. That was like gold, right?
Yeah.
And then, they're just great. And I still like the corks. I know the screw tops are like,
They're very convenient in this type of setting.
Yep.
But there's something about pulling that cork out and smelling it and looking at it and all that stuff, so.
Oh, we're in luck. Morning wine. This is good.
I wasn't going to tell people it was the morning. We were going to pretend it was evening.
Okay, what's evening, folks?
Evening wine?
Yeah. Oh, it's like you smell the jamminess of it. Cheers.
Thank you for bringing this.
Wow. That could still last another 10 years.
Gorgeous wine.
And you just get like still the tannins in it. And
yeah. Delish for evening. So now this is completely off topic, has nothing to do with why I brought you here, but as we swirl these glasses.
I love these glasses, by the way.
Well, this is what I was going to ask you. Stemmed, no stem, does that matter to you?
Not anymore, because they've changed.
These are nice glasses.
Right, they've changed glasses and how it works. Years before, if you're holding it, you would warm your wine up too quickly, especially with whites. But no, and we were in a couple weeks ago and had a bottle of wine, and when Chris brought the glasses over, I went, this is really cool.
I heard you, and you made it to our nightly report.
No, we love coming here. I from the first time that we walked in the door,
I was going to say, we met the first time you came in.
And I had heard about, the wood-burning pizza oven, and that's, okay, one of my go-to foods, there's about 3 of them. Shreddies and blueberries, and then pizza's a very, very, maybe that's the number 1 of what I eat, and then burgers, right? But I love pizza, and I love really good pizza, and your crust is beautiful. Like, as at the end, you get the chewiness of it, and that's what you're looking for. And then, Trish loves the meat, and we both love the meatballs and salads. But no, it's just always nice, and you welcomed, and I just love what you're doing here.
Thank you. And I actually saw when I was doing some research, you were teaching people how to cure an oven, which you don't see very often, because even when we open new restaurants, people are like, what do you mean you have to cure it? And ours takes like 5 days. You got to bring it up and down and up and down. And it's actually a really cool process. And I was happy to see that you were explaining that to people, because not many people do.
And I think the other part of chefing is that you want to play with fire all the time. And, you know, the gas stoves and induction's great, love it, but, you know, so there's something about fire. And when you can use something like wood or charcoal or, you know, there's a whole nother element to your skill level that you're challenging yourself with as a chef. And I just love it. And I love that, you know, when you walk in, or, you know, we have 3 wood burning pizza ovens, and we're getting ready, because we got the one later, to do the 5-day cure on the one. But I just love when we can do halibut on it, and you get, you know, the brown, but it's not too smoky, and it's just,
so we went to an event last night at the Galt Collective, and we spoke to the owner of Little King Goods, and he was talking about branding and social media, YouTube, Instagram. You have branded yourself as Chef D and done a fantastic job doing it. Tell me a little bit about how that came about. And
well, when we first started,
you're a brand,
right? Yeah, exactly. When we first started this whole Chef D journey, I wanted it just to be that we're going to work with companies and kind of do the corporate chef thing for them. That was kind of really what I was thinking about. And then as we started doing more and more of the videos and realizing that we have to engage an audience to, you know, bring people this way, that's when we and I say we because Trish was, if it wasn't for Trish, half of this would not be where we are.
Thank you, Trish.
Seriously. So, you know, we tried to have people kind of, everybody told us, oh, no, you have to, you know, maybe put out 5 different videos, or not videos, kind of certain posts at certain times and stuff like that. And we both went, no, that's not us, you know. We like sharing where we're at, you know. And so, again, to make this story longer, is we have 2 Facebook pages, and because we thought we'd have a personal page and you have a professional page, well, it kind of never morphed into that. Both of them are just having fun pages, you know. So we have 2 pages, kind of doing the like-minded of everything, and that's how it all started. And then it just kind of morphed into, we're going to do, hey, I'm Chef D, you never know where I'm going to be. And we got to share some really cool events, and that just kind of made it much more alive for us, and then not so stagnant, and just found it that way. And then we went on Instagram. Twitter, we never really, I don't know if we ever really embraced Twitter all that much. A couple here and there, but nothing like the other 2 platforms. And then, yes, we did consciously, this is who Chef D is, this is who we support, this is, you know, as you kind of grow into this, you kind of see where you want it to go and where you don't want it to go, you know. I'll never be part of a cooking competition. I'll never go on a show with you know, just, that's not my thing. My thing's just to share my passion with you, or, you know, or even talk to our audiences about what a cool place this is, you know, or that we're at TJ's and we're getting really fresh garlic from here, you know, that type of thing.
Yeah.
And that's what it's about.
I think that's so cool. And you've done 2 cookbooks, is that right?
2 cookbooks, yes.
Yeah.
Maple Madness and Garlic Madness. They're cookbookettes, we like to call them. I think there's 20 recipes in each. They're all faves that I kind of came about. And we wanted something, because I see, you know, you go into Chapters or Indigo, and there's a lot of cookbooks on for 3/4 off, you know, right? So we wanted something that would sell, and so we made these cookbooks. And over the time we've given some away, but I think we've sold around 3,500 copies of our cookbooks.
Wow. So Brian, my dad and business partner who founded the restaurant, he wants to do a cookbook. Now his idea of doing a cookbook is going to Italy for 3 months and doing his cookbook there. Any truth in that?
I'm so with him.
You'll go with him and you can do it together.
Yeah, no, that'd be kind of cool, like to kind of embed yourself in something. That's what I think the hardest part of anything that I do, and anything that is probably the other thing that I hate doing, is writing recipes. And it sounds really weird,
Interesting, yeah.
but you know, being really creative and kind of letting it just go, you just, you know, and I remember going back to my one grandmother who was an amazing cook, and I always asked her, "Hey, Nanny, what's in that?" She goes, "Well, a little bit of this, a little bit of that,
Pinch
right?
of that, a
Right?
splash of this.
And so that's kind of how it all starts going. And I remember, I think as Wolfgang Puck commented recently, that just because you write the recipe the one time and you go to the restaurant and you have it, doesn't always mean it's going to be the same the next time. You know, we change, we might put a little bit more of this or maybe a little bit less of that. And I know, you know, chains out there, they've been consistent on trying to get everything consistent, right?
Yeah.
That's not me. So that's, I guess, the hardest part of what I do is sitting down and having to go, well, it's a quarter cup of this, you know, that type of thing.
And you like to keep it simple for people like me who love to cook.
Yeah.
I cook fairly often, but I basically only cook Jamie Oliver
Yeah.
because it's very simple.
Yep.
I first started cooking, I was watching a show, as
Yep.
John was saying, I love watching cooking shows. I recorded it, paused it, went to the grocery store, picked everything up, played, watched it, went back to the kitchen, did a little bit more, came back, took off my rubber gloves because I was wearing them at that point and swimming goggles so that my eyes wouldn't water from the onions. And, you know, go back and forth, but you try to do the same and keep it very simple so that anyone can do it.
Right. So when we first started out, I thought that we had to have, you know, recipes that were, you know, 15 different ingredients. And then when I was working for Aquastar, we had a new product developer come on who became the vice president of that division. And she said, no, we want to have simple, easy recipes that anybody can do, and you're going to become much more of a household name if you do it that way versus trying to make it. She goes, you can cook. These recipes aren't for you. They're for people, you know, who can't or want something to do something different. So that was really good words, and Trisha's kind of kept me on track that way too, is this is what we're doing. And it's really become, as you mentioned, a really good part of Chef D because people know that our recipes work and that they don't have to go to 5 different places to get
They
it
can
all.
do it. Yeah, that's the best part. So I know we've gone a little bit over our time limit. So
Sorry.
No, I mean, I could stay here all day, especially with wine too. Anything you'd like to share with us before we wrap this up?
As I mentioned earlier at the beginning, is that don't be scared to make mistakes. You know, we all make mistakes. You know, through those mistakes comes some really good learning and some really cool things that come out of it. You know, like Dungeness crab and radishes don't go together. But, you know, that type of thing. And that food should be fun. You know, we've taken, you know, there's a lot of shows on TV that there's competitions. Eating and food shouldn't be a competition. It's about sitting at that table and enjoying it with your family.
And there's a great saying on one of our walls somewhere that says, you don't age when you eat.
Exactly.
And I think we should keep eating and keep drinking wine and
I will.
Keep sharing it with everyone.
Thank you for having me. This has been a blast.
Thank you so much for coming in today.
Cheers.
Cheers.